So today we're talking UltraView and specifically the UV slider. A couple things in the UV slider I really love. This is the sight I used for I don't know how many months. I picked this up hoping that this would be the last sight that I buy for my bow, and it wasn't. So we're going to talk about the reason why I'm no longer using the UV slider, why I'll actually be getting rid of this, and I'll show you a little bit about what I'm using now. I guess I kind of want to start by saying that the UV slider is a really sweet sight. I mean, there's some things that I absolutely love about this, but the things that I dislike about this are unfortunately a deal breaker for me. That doesn't mean it's necessarily for everybody, but for me, this isn't a sight that I feel comfortable hunting with anymore, and I'll tell you why. Let me start with the good things. The overall quality and finish on this sight are absolutely amazing. I mean, anytime you buy something from UltraView, whether it's the slider, the UV button, you know what you're gonna get is a high quality product. I mean, even look at the UV1 case. I am very interested in those arrows. Hopefully I get my hands on some before long. But the quality of product that you get from UltraView is super high. Good thing number one that I really love is the most common praise of the UltraView slider is the ergonomics. This is something that the bow sight that I'm using now does not do nearly as well, but the giant knob you have on here to make yardage adjustments it's perfect. It's what you'd want any slider sight to have. Unfortunately, the slider sight that I went to is not as ergonomically good as the UV slider. It's just not. I don't think anything is. But that wasn't a deal breaker for me. Good thing number two, right here on that dial is your windage adjustment, and it's super easy to use. Toolless, all you have to do is pull this out. Left is left, right is right. It's pretty sweet. I mean, I love how simple it is. I do wish there was a way to mechanically lock this down instead of it just having the pull out. There was a couple times in my antelope hunt where I'd be moving my bow on the ground for 300-400 yards and just really nervous that this might have got plucked and a couple clicks over one way or the other. I do wish it had some kind of mechanical lockdown where I could take like an Allen key and really lock it down once I have the sight dialed. But regardless of my personal wants, this is a great system and it's super user friendly. Another thing that the site I went to has not done perfectly, UltraView has nailed on the UV slider. So the yardage pins on here are not chintzy or cheap. It's really hard to bend them or have any kind of durability concern. But also they're independently adjustable. So once you sight in that middle pin, you can move not only the pins in the housing up or down, but also the indicator pins up and down, which means you can dial this sight to exactly having your 20, 30, 40, or how I went elk hunting with a 30, 40, and 50. You have all the adjustability you need to make that decision and get it perfect. So huge props to UV on that one. So pretty high praises so far. You might be thinking, what the heck is the deal breaker then? And that comes down to one of the most important parts you get in your UV kit is your light for the housing. The integrated light they have is actually phenomenal. The buttons are super easy to use. You got it on, off, and then you got your brightness down and brightness up. When you're using this on the pins that they have in there, because you got these tiny little pins, when you can see them really well with that sight on, your aiming precision can't really get much better. The pins are small enough that it almost feels like when you're shooting with both eyes open, you can see right through the pin, almost like you're shooting a red dot on a handgun or a rifle. So the accuracy I can achieve with this thing when I'm able to see those pins is it's pretty awesome. But that brings me right to my issue with the UV slider, because I started hunting the Colorado antelope season. Lighted sights in Colorado are illegal. So without this, you go to your standard white housing, unlighted, and this might be a personal issue, but I've heard other people have the same criticism. The pins are so small and dark without the light that I can't confidently see my pins. There's a very specific moment antelope hunting when I remember I got to 80-something yards. I'll throw the clip up now. 80-something yards on two antelope that were just feeding, completely relaxed. And when I drew my bow and tried to aim, this isn't at last light. It's not super dark outside. When I tried to aim, my pins were so blurry that they almost formed like one blob that I was aiming with. I had no confidence taking that shot, where otherwise I'd feel completely comfortable taking that shot. But because I could not see my pins accurately, I wasn't able to make that shot. And I had to risk getting closer, and luckily the stock ended up working out. I ended up getting a great shot. Check out the full video up here. Check out that full video on the hunt. Knowing that I had a September elk hunt coming up where I'd likely be in the dark timber, I was not gonna take a site where I could not see my pins into the elk woods. Or, for that matter, into the whitetail woods. For me, that's a complete deal breaker. You can definitely tell that this is a target archer's take on a hunting site. And they really got a lot of things really right. I love UltraView products, but the UV slider with the pins that it has isn't going to be on my hunting bow until they change something about the pins. So what I have been using, and will continue to use for the rest of the 2024 season at least, is the CBE Trek Pro Micro 3V. Kind of a mouthful. What you get here is a triple stack vertical pin setup. And coming from the Black Gold dual track, I really love that 2-pin vertical. But with Western hunting, when things move fast with elk, a third pin is a really big deal. For me, this pin setup is pretty glorious. The pins are 19 thousandths, which is perfect for my eyesight. They're not so big that they're obscuring my target, but they're big enough that I can see them in any light conditions. On my recent elk hunt, I really loved that I was able to cover up the pins when I was sitting in broad daylight over a wallow or going through open meadows. But when I got into the dark timber, I could open all the fibers up to make sure I had as much light coming into this thing as possible. And I think how simple this is pretty awesome. I will be dropping a full review on this after I've had time to hunt and shoot it a whole lot more than I have. Kind of like with the UV slider, things that I like. Y'all are kind of loud. Before I get a full review dropped on this thing, I really love the pin setup. As I said, it is massive to me that they can all be independently adjusted. So just like the UV slider, I can move my top and bottom pin and my pin indicators to match exactly what I'm looking for. A couple things that are not as nice as UV slider, but not deal breakers for me. The indicator pins on the sight tape are horrendous. Getting them to line up on exactly my yardage marks was a pain in the butt. It's not something that I ever have to touch until I change something on my setup. So I just got them locked in as tight as I could and hopefully don't have to touch them anymore. And another bad thing is the dial itself. So the dial actually requires me to unlock a screw on this side and then reach and kind of not hit my fingers on the windage adjustment to be able to dial. And this windage adjustment just gets right in the way. Luckily, the way I have my pin set up covers from 20 to 50. So anything past 50, I'd hope to have a little bit more time to dial. But that is just kind of a goofy setup. Not a deal breaker for me. It's totally usable. Just definitely not as nice as that UV slider. Please leave a comment with what you want to see next. We have broadhead reviews coming out very, very shortly. I've got a package from Beast broadheads, a package from Sever broadheads. Let me know what you want me to test with those broadheads, because there's a lot of videos on YouTube, but what specifically do you guys want to see? Leave this video a like, comment what your thoughts are down below, obviously subscribe for more future content, and may God bless you all.